The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke still rose from the ground, carrying the bitter smell of burned metal and dust. The war had passed here only hours ago, yet it already felt like an empty graveyard. The ground was covered with broken machines, shattered weapons, and lifeless soldiers from both sides. The air was heavy, and every sound echoed too loudly in the silence. Mara, a field nurse in the human army, moved carefully through the ruins. Her boots pressed against ash and scattered debris. She had been told to search for survivors, though she knew deep inside that it was unlikely. Still, her duty pushed her forward. She carried a small medical pack, and her hands trembled slightly as she kept scanning the shadows. Her eyes were trained to look for movement, any sign of life, no matter how small. She found a wounded soldier leaning against a broken wall. His breathing was shallow, his chest rising slowly. Mara knelt and checked his pulse, whispering soft words to calm him as she cleaned his wounds. She worked quickly, gave him water, and marked his position with a beacon for evacuation. Then she stood and pressed forward again. It was the same routine she had done many times during the war, yet something about today felt different. The silence was heavier than usual, as if hiding a secret. After walking past the wreckage of an alien tank, she froze. Something massive was lying in the distance. At first she thought it was just another piece of broken war gear, perhaps some giant alien machine. But then she noticed it moved. Slowly, painfully, the shape lifted part of itself, then collapsed again with a sound that shook the ground. Mara's breath caught in her throat. As she stepped closer, she saw what it truly was. It was not a machine. It was alive. Before her lay an enormous dragon-like creature, but unlike any creature she had ever imagined. Its scales were pale, shining faintly even under the dust and smoke, as if the light of distant stars had been trapped in its skin. Its wings were torn and scorched, folded weakly at its sides. A long tail stretched across the rubble, twitching slightly as if in pain. And then she saw its eyes golden, bright even in weakness, watching her with a tired glow. Mara's heart pounded. She had heard stories about these creatures. The albino alien dragons were known across the galaxy as living weapons, bred by an alien faction for war. They were feared, respected, and hated. No human had ever come this close to one and lived. Her orders were clear: ignore enemy beasts, focus only on human soldiers. But standing there, looking at its wounds, she felt something stir inside her. It was not fear. It was not hatred. It was pity. The dragon's chest rose and fell slowly, each breath labored. Its scales near the chest were cracked, stained with blood that shimmered silver in the dim light. The wings had deep gashes, and one leg bent at an unnatural angle. The creature was dying, and it knew it. Its golden eyes blinked once, and for a moment Mara thought she saw a silent plea. She gripped her medical kit tighter. Every part of her training screamed against the thought. This was the enemy's weapon. This was not her responsibility. But her human heart did not care for orders at that moment. She was a nurse. Her role was to save lives. And right in front of her was a life slowly slipping away. Mara glanced around. The battlefield was still. No patrols, no witnesses. Just her and the dragon. Her mind raced with fear of what would happen if anyone found out. She could be accused of betrayal. She could lose everything. Yet her eyes returned to the creature. It was abandoned, just like the fallen soldiers scattered around. Even its own kind had left it behind. She stepped closer. The dragon let out a weak growl, low and shaky, but made no move to strike. Its claws dug into the dirt, but its strength was gone. Mara raised her hands, palms open, trying to show she meant no harm. She moved slowly, carefully, her heart racing faster with each step. When she was close enough, she knelt beside its chest. The heat radiating from its body was intense, like standing near fire. She reached out, trembling, and touched the scales near its wound. They were rough, cracked, but alive. The dragon's golden eyes locked onto her, and something unspoken passed between them. Fear mixed with trust, hesitation mixed with need. It did not push her away. Mara opened her kit. Her fingers worked quickly, pulling out bandages, a water flask, and a field injector for pain relief. She whispered softly, not sure if the creature could understand, but speaking anyway. Her voice was gentle, steady, as she cleaned around the wounds. The dragon flinched once, then settled again, its eyes never leaving her. For the first time since the battle ended, the silence did not feel empty. It felt like the beginning of something new. When she finished cleaning part of the wound, she leaned back and breathed deeply. Her choice was made. She was not going to leave this creature to die. Orders could wait. Fear could wait. In that moment, Mara knew only one truth: life was worth saving, no matter where it came from. And so, on a broken battlefield abandoned by all, a human nurse reached out to an alien dragon. Both were alone, both wounded in their own way, and yet in that quiet meeting, a fragile bond was born. The night grew colder as Mara stayed beside the wounded dragon. The battlefield, once loud with fire and screams, now lay under a quiet sky filled with dim stars. Only the soft sound of wind moving through broken metal and stone remained. Mara sat with her back against a piece of wreckage, her medical kit open at her side. Her hands were sore, and her clothes carried the smell of blood and smoke. Yet her eyes never left the great creature resting before her. The dragon's golden eyes shone faintly even in the darkness. It was awake, but too weak to move. Its chest rose and fell slowly, each breath heavy with pain. Mara could see the exhaustion in its gaze. This was no wild beast, there was intelligence there, a spark of awareness that unsettled her. It was not simply surviving, it was watching her, trying to understand her choice. Her orders were clear in her mind. Human soldiers first. Enemies must be ignored. She had followed those orders before. But now, here, with this creature abandoned and broken, she felt her duty pulling in another direction. A nurse was meant to save life, not measure who deserved it. Mara closed her eyes for a moment, trying to calm the storm in her chest. She imagined the face of her commanding officer, stern and sharp, reminding her that compassion had limits in war. If she helped this dragon, if anyone found out, she would be seen as a traitor. Her career would be over, and perhaps her life as well. She had sworn loyalty to her people. Was she about to break it? She opened her eyes again. The dragon shifted slightly, a soft rumble rising from its throat. It was not anger. It was pain. Mara's hand moved to her kit almost on its own. She took out a fresh roll of bandage and some antiseptic spray. Her fingers trembled, but she began working again, cleaning another wound along its neck. The dragon's breath shuddered as she touched the injured skin, yet it remained still. Its eyes closed for a moment, as if surrendering to her care. "You should not trust me," Mara whispered softly. "But I think you already do." The words were not meant for an answer, but speaking them eased her heart. She worked carefully, wrapping the long cuts, pressing gently where the bleeding had slowed. Each action reminded her that she was choosing this path fully. There was no turning back. If she saved this dragon, her life would change forever. Hours passed, and the night grew deeper. Mara lit a small lamp to see her work more clearly. The faint glow painted the dragon's pale scales with a silver shine. When she paused to drink some water, she noticed the creature's gaze following her movements closely. It was no longer just watching in silence. It was studying her, as if measuring whether she could be trusted. She thought about leaving. She could walk away now, return to camp, and no one would ever know. The dragon would die here, and her record would remain clean. That was the safe choice. But as she looked at its great body, breathing with effort, she knew she would not forgive herself if she abandoned it. She had already touched its wounds, already given her care. Walking away now would feel like betrayal. Suddenly, a noise echoed in the distance. Mara froze. A faint hum of engines rolled across the night air. She quickly put out the lamp and crouched low. The dragon stirred, lifting its head weakly, its ears twitching at the sound. Search drones, she thought, or maybe enemy scouts. Fear gripped her chest. If they found her here with this creature, there would be no explaining it. She pressed herself against the dragon's side, hoping the shadows would hide her. The creature's wing shifted slightly, curling just enough to cover her small frame beneath its white scales. Mara blinked in shock. It was protecting her. The gesture was simple, but it sent warmth through her heart stronger than any fire. It was as if the dragon had decided she was not an enemy. The engines passed in the distance, fading after a few minutes. Silence returned once more. Mara let out a long breath and touched the dragon's wing gently in thanks. It lowered its head again, eyes half closed, as if too tired to hold itself up. But she understood the message clearly. It trusted her enough to shield her. Mara leaned back and looked at the stars above. Her decision was no longer in doubt. She would stay with the dragon. She would help it heal, no matter the cost. If that meant risking punishment, she would face it. In her heart, she believed that saving life was greater than following cold orders. The night stretched on. Mara worked until her hands grew heavy, then rested with her head against the dragon's side. Its deep breaths rose and fell beneath her, steadying her own. For the first time since the war began, she did not feel completely alone. And as sleep began to claim her, one thought echoed in her mind. The impossible decision was already made. She had chosen the path of life, and there was no turning back. Morning came slowly across the battlefield. A pale light pushed through the smoke, revealing twisted metal, scattered weapons, and broken walls. The silence was heavy, broken only by the crows that circled above, searching for scraps. Mara opened her eyes and felt the steady rise and fall beneath her cheek. She had fallen asleep leaning against the dragon's side. The dragon stirred, lifting its head slightly. Its golden eyes blinked at her, calm but still sharp. Mara sat up quickly, brushing dust from her uniform. She remembered where she was and what she had chosen. She was no longer just a nurse following orders. She was a guardian of a creature left behind by all. "Good morning," she whispered, though she knew it might not understand. The dragon let out a soft rumble, not threatening, more like a tired sigh. Its breath misted in the cool morning air. Mara stood and checked its wounds again. The bandages were still holding, though blood had soaked through in a few places. She reached for fresh cloth and began changing them carefully. The dragon flinched once, but did not pull away. Its patience surprised her. As she worked, Mara felt its gaze following her every movement. At first she thought it was simply watching out of caution, but slowly she realized something else. The dragon was curious. Its eyes lingered on her hands, her careful touch, the way she whispered softly as she worked. She wondered if it had ever been treated with such care before. Hours passed in quiet labor. Mara cleaned wounds, gave water from her flask, and even broke part of her food ration to share. The dragon sniffed the bread but refused it, instead accepting the water gratefully. It drank slowly, lowering its great head close to her hands. She could feel the heat of its breath, strong even in weakness. At midday, the sound of distant engines broke the silence again. Mara froze. She crouched low, listening. It was not just one machine, there were several, moving in a slow pattern. She knew that sound. Patrols. Both human and alien drones often searched battlefields for survivors or lost equipment. If they found the dragon, it would be reported at once. She quickly turned to the dragon. "We have to hide you," she whispered urgently. Of course, hiding a beast of its size was nearly impossible, but she had to try. The dragon seemed to sense her fear. It lifted its weak wings and shifted its heavy body toward the ruins of a half-destroyed building. Mara guided it as best she could, though every step made the ground tremble. The dragon's claws dug into the dirt, pulling itself slowly behind the collapsed wall. Dust fell from the stones, but the creature managed to lower itself partly out of sight. Mara pressed herself against the dragon's side, heart racing. The hum of engines grew louder, closer. Through a crack in the wall, she saw a drone glide past, its red eye scanning the ruins. Another followed behind it. Her breath caught in her throat. If the machines detected heat or movement, all would be lost. The dragon shifted slightly, lowering its wing over her again, just as it had done the night before. The vast wing curved around her like a wall, hiding her small form. She could feel its heartbeat through the scales, steady and strong. It was protecting her again, just as she was protecting it. The drones lingered for a long moment, scanning the ruins. Mara held her breath until her chest ached. Finally, the machines moved on, the hum of their engines fading into the distance. Only then did she let out a long, shaky sigh of relief. She looked up at the dragon. Its golden eyes met hers, calm and steady. She reached out and touched its scales gently. "Thank you," she whispered. The creature rumbled softly in reply. It was not words, but it was enough. For the rest of the day, Mara stayed close, listening for any sign of danger. She realized that her bond with the dragon was growing. At first, she had been the only one giving trust, but now the creature was offering it back. Each time she touched its wounds, each time it shielded her, the silent connection between them deepened. As night fell again, Mara sat near a small fire she had built in a broken metal shell. She kept the flames low to avoid drawing attention. The dragon lay nearby, its massive body curled in the ruins, its scales shining faintly in the starlight. She could hear its slow breathing, steady and calm now compared to the day before. Mara ate the last of her ration, chewing slowly, her mind restless. She knew the danger was only growing. Word would spread that a dragon had survived. Both sides would want it either to capture or to kill. If she stayed, she would be hunted too. Yet the thought of leaving never even reached her heart. She looked at the dragon and smiled faintly. "I cannot let you die," she said softly. "Not while I'm here." The dragon opened its golden eyes and watched her again. No words passed between them, but in that moment, Mara felt sure of one thing. The creature understood more than anyone believed. And in the shadows of a ruined battlefield, trust was being born, trust that might one day change both their worlds. The ruins were quiet again the next morning, but Mara knew the silence was dangerous. Drones and soldiers would come back. They always did. Yet she stayed, kneeling beside the pale dragon, cleaning its wounds with steady hands. She had grown used to the heat of its body, the sound of its breath, and even the low rumble in its chest that came whenever she touched the deeper cuts. The creature was stronger now. Its breathing had grown steadier, and it could lift its head without collapsing. Mara noticed how its golden eyes followed her every step. At first the gaze had been sharp and wary, but now it seemed softer, as if the dragon had begun to trust her presence. "You are not like the stories," Mara whispered while wrapping fresh bandages around its leg. "They said you were nothing but monsters. But I don't believe that now." The dragon tilted its head slightly, as though listening. For a moment, Mara almost laughed. Talking to an alien beast on a battlefield was the last thing she expected in her life, yet here she was, speaking as if it could understand. Later, when the sun began to fall behind the clouds of smoke, Mara climbed onto a piece of broken stone to look out across the land. From there she could see the wide stretch of ruins, the burned forests beyond, and the faint trail of ships moving in the sky. The war had left scars everywhere. She knew patrols would not stop searching until every corner was checked. When she looked back, she saw the dragon watching her. Its scales caught the fading light, glowing softly like silver fire. Something about its presence felt less like danger and more like companionship. She smiled and stepped closer. "I cannot keep calling you creature, can I?" she said gently. She thought for a moment, then whispered, "Loom. That will be your name. Your scales shine like light in the dark." The dragon blinked slowly, its golden eyes reflecting the fire of the setting sun. Mara did not know if it understood, but she felt the name was right. From that moment, she thought of it not as a weapon or enemy, but as Loom, her companion in survival. That night, as shadows grew long, danger returned. Mara heard distant voices carried by the wind. Soldiers. She crouched low, her heart racing. She could not tell if they were human or alien, but their presence meant only one thing: they were searching. She hurried back to Loom, whispering urgently, "You must stay quiet. Please." The dragon lowered its head, understanding her tone if not her words. Its great body pressed against the rubble, blending into the shadows as best it could. Mara hid beside it, clutching her small knife, though she knew it would be useless if discovered. The voices grew louder, boots crunching across broken ground. Mara's breath caught. Through a crack in the wall, she saw two figures moving with rifles, their helmets shining faintly in the moonlight. They scanned the area with flashlights, sweeping the ruins one by one. Her pulse hammered. If they saw Loom, it would all be over. One soldier stepped closer, his light passing across the broken stones where Mara and the dragon hid. The beam of light almost reached them, and Mara froze. She pressed her hand against Loom's scales, praying silently. Then the dragon did something unexpected. It pulled its wing lower, covering Mara more completely, and let out a faint rumble so low it was almost silent. The vibration passed through her body like a shield. She realized it was trying to keep her calm, to steady her fear. The soldiers paused, listening. For a moment Mara thought they had heard. But then, distracted by a distant noise, they turned away and walked further into the ruins. Their lights faded, their voices grew faint, and soon they were gone. Mara collapsed against Loom's side, breathing hard. Relief flooded through her. She touched its scales gently. "You saved me again," she whispered. The dragon's eye opened, watching her with calm patience. It rumbled once more, softer this time, like an answer. The rest of the night passed in silence, but the bond between them had grown stronger. Mara no longer saw Lum as just a wounded creature. She saw it as a companion, a protector, and maybe even a friend. Days passed, and Mara continued to care for Lum in secret. She brought water from a nearby stream, carried food when she could find it, and worked each day to clean and rebandage the wounds. The dragon's strength grew, its movements steadier. Sometimes, when Mara rested, it curled its tail near her, as if marking her place beside it. Each small gesture built trust between them. Mara found herself speaking more often, telling stories of her childhood, of the forests on Earth, of her life before the war. She did not know if Lum understood her words, but the dragon always listened, its golden eyes steady and warm. One evening, as the stars appeared in the sky, Mara sat with her back against the dragon's side, looking upward. "We will have to leave this place soon," she said softly. "They will come again. And if they find you, they will not show mercy." The dragon lifted its head, staring into the night. Its wings twitched, though still weak. Mara knew it wanted to fly, to escape, but its body was not yet ready. Until then, they had only each other. She placed her hand against its scales. "We will survive," she whispered. "Together." And in the stillness of the ruined battlefield, a nurse and an alien dragon formed a bond that would carry them through the shadows of war. The days of quiet could not last forever. Mara knew it, and deep inside Lum seemed to know it too. The battlefield was not forgotten by the world. Patrols came and went, scouts scanned the ruins, and whispers moved faster than the wind. Somewhere, soldiers from both sides had already begun talking about the impossible, the white-scaled dragon that had survived. It started with drones circling closer each night. Mara saw their red lights sweeping over the ruins, searching. One evening she even spotted human scouts placing sensors in the distance. On another day, she caught sight of alien soldiers marking the area with strange glowing beacons. Each side wanted proof, each side wanted the prize. Mara stayed hidden with Lum in the collapsed building, but fear grew heavier with each sunrise. She patched his wounds again and again, but whispered nervously as she worked. "They are looking for you. They will not stop." Lum's golden eyes followed her voice. Though still weak, the dragon lifted its head higher each day, as if listening to the danger around them. His wings, though torn, stretched further now. Mara could see the strength returning slowly, but time was running short. That evening, Mara climbed the highest piece of wreckage to look out once more. From there she saw the glow of lights moving in the distance, rows of them. Soldiers. Too many to be just a patrol. Her stomach tightened. Both sides must have learned the truth. She hurried back to Lum, her voice urgent. "We have to go. If we stay here, they will find us." The dragon shifted, trying to rise. Its body trembled, but it stood taller than it had before. Mara pressed her hand against its scales, steadying her breath. "I know you are not ready to fly. But we cannot wait for them to surround us." That night, they left the safety of the broken building. Moving through the ruins was slow and dangerous. Each step Lum took left marks in the dust, and Mara tried to cover them as best she could. She stayed close to his side, listening for every sound. The night was alive with echoes, distant shouts, the buzz of machines, and the faint roar of engines. Soon they reached the edge of the battlefield, where burned trees stood like black skeletons against the sky. Mara guided Lum into the forest. Broken branches and ash clung to their clothes and scales, but the cover was better than open ground. The smell of smoke still lingered, hiding their scent from scouts. Hours passed as they crept deeper into the woods. Mara's legs ached, and her throat burned from thirst, but she pushed forward. Each time she faltered, she felt the warm rumble of Lum's breath behind her, reminding her she was not alone. But the hunt was closing in. The sound of boots and engines grew louder behind them. Drones flew above the trees, their red lights sweeping back and forth. Once, a beam nearly touched Mara's face before Lum's tail pulled her down into the shadows. Her heart hammered in her chest as the machine passed. By dawn, they were still on the run. Mara collapsed beside a stream, drinking quickly before filling her flask. Lum bent his great head to the water, lapping slowly. The sight almost made her smile, this fearsome beast drinking like a gentle animal beside her. But her smile faded quickly when she heard the faint crack of branches in the distance. Soldiers were near. Mara grabbed her pack and whispered sharply, "We have to move again." Lum lifted his head, golden eyes scanning the forest. His wings twitched, as though his body longed to take to the skies. Mara shook her head. "Not yet. You are not ready." But the sounds grew closer, shouts in alien tongue on one side, human commands on the other. Both groups were searching, moving fast. They were no longer hunting each other. They were hunting the dragon. Mara and Lum slipped through the trees, but the forest soon opened into a clearing. The burned ground stretched wide, with no cover. Beyond it, cliffs rose high, offering a chance to escape into hidden valleys. But to reach them, they would have to cross in plain sight. Mara's breath caught. "We have no choice," she whispered. She stepped first, running into the clearing. Lum followed, his claws digging into the earth. They made it halfway before shouts rose behind them. Soldiers poured from the trees, weapons raised. Drones swooped low, red lights flashing. Both sides were here now, and both had found their target. Mara turned, panic rushing through her. "Run, Lum!" The dragon roared, a sound so deep it shook the ground. Even injured, the power in that voice scattered the nearest soldiers, forcing them to shield their ears. Lum spread his wings, though torn, and beat them once, sending dust and ash into the air. Mara clung to his side, her heart racing. The hunters had come, and the chase had begun. But for the first time since the war ended, she saw fire in Lum's eyes, not weakness, but strength returning. They would not go down easily. Together, they would fight for survival. The clearing stretched wide under the rising sun, a battlefield still scarred by war. Mara's heart pounded as she clung to Lum's side. The dragon's wings, though battered, lifted slowly, stirring dust and ash into the air. Behind them, the shouts of soldiers and the buzz of drones grew louder. Both human and alien forces were closing in, determined to capture or kill the dragon. Mara held tightly as Lum shifted his weight, testing his wings. "You can do it," she whispered. "I know you can." The dragon let out a deep, trembling roar. Its wings beat once, then twice, lifting its massive body from the ground. Dust fell away, and for the first time, Mara felt the wind whip around her face. She gasped at the sensation of movement, the sudden rush of freedom. Above them, the sky opened. Drones swooped low, scanning for heat signatures. Soldiers fired weapons from below, and alien scouts tracked movement with glowing devices. Mara gripped Lum as tightly as she could, trying to stay balanced against the force of his wings. The dragon tilted, dodging a volley of fire. Its golden eyes glimmered with determination. Mara felt the rush of adrenaline. She realized that Lum was not just escaping, he was protecting her. Every movement of his wings, every powerful sweep, was designed to shield her from harm. They rose higher. The battlefield below grew smaller, the ruined tanks and scorched earth fading into the distance. Mara looked down at the hunters, their weapons ineffective from so high above. Lum's roar echoed across the mountains and valleys, a warning to anyone who dared follow. Almost there, Mara whispered, urging him toward the cliffs that led to hidden valleys. The dragon's wings beat faster, stronger. Despite his injuries, he pushed forward with skill and grace. Mara could feel his muscles working beneath her hands, each flap lifting them higher. The wind tore at her hair and uniform, but she felt safe, wrapped in the dragon's protective presence. Below, the hunters did not give up. Ships rose from the valley, engines glowing, weapons trained on Lum. Drones circled aggressively, scanning for any sign of movement. Mara's stomach twisted, but Lum did not falter. Each beat of his wings sent them higher, further from danger. Suddenly, a laser beam cut across the air near them. Mara ducked instinctively, gripping the dragon tightly. Lum tilted sharply, twisting his wings to avoid the attack. The force threw her against his scales, but she held on, heart racing. The dragon let out a roar of frustration and effort. Mara whispered encouragement, feeling the bond between them grow stronger with every passing second. Through the chaos, Mara noticed something remarkable. Lum was learning, adapting to the danger. His wings adjusted with precision, dodging projectiles, his tail sweeping aside obstacles, his eyes tracking every enemy movement below. The injured dragon was becoming a force to be reckoned with. The cliffs ahead grew closer. Mara pointed toward them. "Go, Lum. You can make it." With a powerful push, Lum launched higher, climbing above the valley. Mara felt the rush of wind against her face, the incredible freedom of flying. Below, the ships and soldiers were too far to reach them. Mara's heart soared with hope. As they reached the hidden valley, Lum finally slowed, landing carefully among trees and rocks untouched by war. His wings folded around him, tired but still strong. Mara slid from his side, dropping to the ground. She laughed, relief flooding her chest. "We made it," she whispered. The valley was quiet. Trees swayed gently in the wind, and a small stream reflected the sunlight. Lum lowered his head, his golden eyes meeting hers. Mara reached out, touching his scales gently. The warmth of his body reminded her how close they had been to danger, and how far they had come together. "You were amazing," she said softly. "I knew you could do it." The dragon rumbled, softly this time, a sound that felt like understanding. Mara knew they were no longer just nurse and patient. They were companions, partners in survival, connected by trust, courage, and the bond they had formed in the darkest hours of war. Night fell over the valley, peaceful and quiet. Mara sat beside Lum, tending his small remaining wounds. She looked at the sky, feeling the freedom of this new place, knowing that the danger from the battlefield could not reach them here, at least for now. Together, human and dragon rested, exhausted but alive. The flight through fire had been terrifying, but it had proven something powerful. Mara had saved Lum, and Lum had saved her in return. They were no longer two separate beings. They were a team, ready to face whatever might come next in the unknown stretches of the galaxy. The hidden valley was quiet now. Trees swayed gently in the wind, and a small stream flowed calmly, reflecting the light of the stars above. Mara sat beside Lum, her hand resting on his warm, pale scales. The journey had been long and dangerous, and both of them were exhausted. Yet, for the first time since the battlefield, Mara felt a sense of peace. Lum lowered his massive head, golden eyes soft and steady. Mara smiled faintly. "We are safe here, at least for now," she whispered. She could feel the bond between them stronger than ever. They had survived impossible odds together, and now the world beyond the valley felt far away. For days, Mara and Lum stayed in the valley. She tended his wounds carefully, gathering herbs and water from the forest. Lum regained strength slowly, his wings mending, his claws sharp again. They explored the valley together, Mara walking beside him, sometimes climbing onto his back to ride short distances. The bond between human and dragon had become unbreakable, built on trust, courage, and shared survival. But Mara knew they could not remain hidden forever. The battlefield, the war, and the soldiers searching for the dragon were still out there. Every story she had heard about captured dragons ended badly. Lum had been abandoned once, left to die by those who should have cared. She would never allow that to happen again. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, Mara sat with Lum beside the stream. She touched his scales gently. "I cannot go back," she said quietly. "If I return to my people, they will punish me. They will take you away. But I cannot leave either." Lum tilted his head, golden eyes fixed on her. She understood him better than she had ever understood any creature. His trust, his loyalty, and his quiet patience spoke volumes. She knew what he wanted. They would stay together, no matter the cost. Decision made, Mara began preparing a small camp in the valley. She built simple shelters, collected food, and cleared paths through the forest. Lum followed, helping in his own way, moving obstacles with his tail, scouting the area with his sharp eyes. Together, they turned the valley into a sanctuary, a place untouched by war. As nights passed, Mara told Lum stories of her home, of the forests, rivers, and stars she had once seen. She spoke softly, her voice carrying across the valley. Lum listened, sometimes ruffling his wings in comfort, sometimes letting out a soft rumble as if replying. Mara realized that the dragon not only trusted her, but he enjoyed her presence, and she enjoyed his. One morning, Mara noticed that Lum's scales glimmered brighter than before, reflecting the sunlight in soft silver and gold. His wings were strong, his body healed, and his eyes shone with pride. The dragon she had rescued was no longer weak or abandoned. He was powerful, alive, and free. Mara ran her hand over his back, feeling the warmth beneath her fingers. "You are home now," she said softly. "And so am I." As the days turned to weeks, Mara and Lum learned to live quietly, away from war and the world that had once hunted them. They moved through the forest, hunted small game for food, and rested beside the stream. Mara kept her medical kit close, tending small injuries, while Lum grew stronger, soaring over the valley with ease. Occasionally, distant sounds reminded them that the outside world still existed, ships in the distance, or faint echoes of weapons from faraway battles, but Mara never worried. They had each other, and that was enough. One evening, Mara stood on a small hill, watching the stars reflected in the stream below. Lum came beside her, golden eyes meeting hers. She reached out, resting her hand on his scales, feeling the strength and warmth beneath. "We survived," she said quietly. "Together." Lum rumbled softly, his wings stretching lightly. Mara laughed gently. Yes, together. And no one can take that from us. In that hidden valley, a human and an albino dragon lived in harmony, free from fear, free from war. Their story would one day be told as a legend, a tale of courage, trust, and the choice to protect life, no matter where it came from. Mara had chosen humanity, not only in herself but in the act of saving a life that others had abandoned. Lum had trusted that choice, and in return, he had protected her with his strength and loyalty. Together, they had become something more than human or dragon. They had become a symbol of hope, of compassion, and of the enduring power of trust. And as the night settled over the valley, Mara and Lum rested side by side, safe at last, bound forever by the choice to survive together.